Well, today is April 17th, 2015, and it's National Wear Blue and Green Day, and I wear green for my brother Todd. My brother Todd had to renew his license on May 10th, 2001, and he made the choice again to be an organ donor, and I had called to wish him a happy birthday, and he told me, I renewed my license. I'm an organ donor again. You should be an organ donor. And I was kind of like, nah, not thinking about dying. And when I came home that weekend, he presented facts and everything, and I was just like, you know what? Why think about it? We're not that old. 19 days later, my brother had an accident on an ATV, and he was declared brain dead. And we honored his wishes to be an organ donor, and that's when LifeSource came into our lives. Todd had been life-lifted to St. Mary's up in Duluth, and that's LifeSource, Donate Life Minnesota's jurisdiction. And what I didn't realize is LifeSource is more than just an organization. It's a family in a way. What they do is they coordinate the retrieval of the organs and finding the recipients, but they also take care of the donor families. They're with you for the rest of your life. They help you with different areas, just trying to go through the grieving process, and any questions you have or anything, they're there for you. And their message is everyone has the gift of life. And we were very lucky enough through LifeSource to actually have contact with one of the people who had received part of Todd's liver. And Ryan, actually, you were 14?
Yes, 14.
He was 14 when he received part of Todd's liver, which ironically, you're 27 now?
28.
You're 28. Okay.
It'll be 14 years this year.
Okay. I was 27 when Todd passed away.
Okay.
So it's kind of like the same. You're the same age.
Yeah. Yes.
So if they do the math, they figure I'm 41. But so it's kind of like the beginning of the story here, but your story started on May 29th. Actually, that was kind of the beginning of your new lease on life.
Yes. My name's Ryan. I'm 28. I was born with cystic fibrosis. It's a genetic lung disease where it affects the whole body, mostly the mucus of the body, and it can't clean itself. And I've had issues my whole life with certain aspects of that with the lung disease, and there's things that I do throughout the day that I have to a daily routine that I do for my cystic fibrosis. And my liver began to fail. September 99 was when it all began for me. I became very ill, 8th grade, a collapsed lung, and I ended up in the hospital. And pretty soon I had all these specialists coming to me and telling me that, this is wrong and we're worried about this test. And it turned out that my liver was beginning to fail and some of the liver enzymes were elevated, and we started doing some different procedures, and there's multiple procedures that I went through. They put a stent in the old liver, and that sustained life for quite a while, up until the point where I got to the point where I needed a new transplant. And there was several rounds of going to the hospital, major bleeding that was a risk of life. And then I was in 9th grade when I got the call.
Were you in school or were you at home?
I was actually studying for my finals. I had finals the next day, and I was sitting there, and I remember it plain as day. It was 7 p.m. at night, and I had my math book open, and I was studying for finals, and the phone rang, and my dad was at a meeting, and my mom was grocery shopping, and it said U of M, and I knew right then that it was the call. So The doctor asked if my mother and my father were home. I said, no, they're not out. Can I take a message? And they said, please have them call me. So I immediately called them right back. And that's kind of where it began. We got to the U of M at 9 p.m. And it just kind of picked up from there. It was kind of like a snowball. And I went into surgery the following day, came out, and I was actually in a coma for 7 days after that with double pneumonia, just because of the complications of my lungs. They couldn't clean themselves, and it was 11-hour surgery. I went in at 11 and I didn't come out until 10 o'clock the following night, and that's when the new lease of life began for me, and it was a very learning experience for myself.
When did you actually find out more information about your recipient's family? Your donor family.
It probably wasn't. We went through LifeSource for quite a few, as much as we could. We tried to get as much information as we could, because we were also excited that, that we got the new lease of life, but at the same time we were very, I can't remember the word now.
Well, I know your mom
humbling,
Your mom sent a really lovely card, I think, the first year.
Yes.
After, I think it was either on Todd's birthday or something, and I don't remember exactly what the card said, but I just remember it was really a very touching card.
Yeah, I remember my mom asking if we should send a card, and I said, something very plain, simple, nothing too pushy, nothing too much, and when the times are right.
Right.
And we just kind of went with that. I'm pretty sure LifeSource supplied the address, and we just didn't want to push too fast,
Right.
for the grievance of your family and yourself, and yeah.
And it honestly, too, is a process, and that's what I think LifeSource was there to tell us. It's a process, and this type of grief is not like any other grieving process that you're going to go through, and that's why they said, we're here for you. And they actually have, on Facebook, there's a private group for people who've lost loved ones. And LifeSource actually puts your name forward to become part of the group. And then once you're part of the group, you can share your story, you support everyone. But it's a place where it's like, finally there's people who understand. It doesn't matter if it's a husband, a wife, a brother, a sister, aunt, uncle. If you've lost someone and they've donated an organ, the other people get it. They understand. And that's why I became involved with LifeSource, and I understood why my brother was so passionate about organ donation. It took a long time. It took me about 11 years, I think, to process all the grief and everything. But then once I did and I realized what it really meant to my brother, I thought, this is something that really needs to have attention brought to it, because 21 people in the United States every day die waiting for an organ. And there's so many people. There's over, I think, 3,000 people on the waiting list. And one person can save and help 60 people. And it's not just organs, it's tissue, it's skin, it's bone, it's muscle, it's tendon, it's corneas. Then there's the living donors with bone marrow.
Yeah.
And I think it's the fear that people are scared of being a donor. And they think, oh, well, what goes into the process? And when you sign up, the first thing, whenever there's an accident, the first thing is ultimately they're going to try to save your life. Then I know from experience, just watching the doctors and nurses up at St. Mary's, my brother was treated with the utmost respect. And my family was treated with the utmost respect. And any question we had was answered. And they reassured us even when they said, when he goes in and we retrieve the organs, we treat them with respect because this is a gift that he's giving. And that was reassuring.
Yeah.
And I think what's important to know, too, is that it doesn't matter if you're famous. It doesn't matter if you have money. The only factors that factor into the organ donation process is body type, blood type, how long you've been on the list, and the severity of your illness. Those are the factors that figure into who gets, the organ.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah. And LifeSource for me, it was very nerve-wracking for us too. When we got told that I needed to be on the transplant list, it was very left field. We didn't see that coming. I mean, we knew the tests were bad. We knew that they were getting worse. We didn't know that was something that was going to be down the road. But once we learned that was where it was going to go and that we needed to do that, they were there the whole step of the way too. I mean, they always made sure that we're comfortable with the decisions that we're making, that we didn't make it hastily or impulsive, or it was very thought out, and we thought that we're taken care of too. Yeah.
And I think what I learned too is there's like a transplant coordinator.
Yes.
And I think that has to be the toughest job in the world, because the transplant coordinator is a nurse, and that person is, when they get the call, they're with the organ donor and the family from the minute they get there until the organ donor goes into surgery, and then they're still there coordinating who gets the organ and everything. And I've heard that, sometimes they're awake for 24, 48 hours. And I wish I could remember the title of the book, but a nurse actually wrote about her experience, and she said there were some times when she was, battling doctors saying, no, I'm sorry, we need this OR because there's a timeline here. Your knee replacement can wait. This can't. And I thought, wow, you have to have guts, you have to be pushy, but you also have to be able to emotionally detach.
Yeah.
And I don't know how anyone could do that.
Yeah. And I think even the nurses too, all the nurses that took care of us took care of me were just phenomenal. They knew the situation. They knew the scenarios that were going to play out, potentially that they had to go in and do a job. And I think it's just amazing how everybody just kind of worked together. I don't think I could do it.
No.
At the time, not knowing, it's rough.
No, looking back, I look back at all the doctors and the nurses who were working with my brother, and I think, you answered so many questions. And there were so many funny things. My brother's youngest daughter, there was a rosary in the gift shop, and it had blue stones, and the blue matched my brother's eyes, so she bought it. And I had one nurse come to me saying, we didn't know you were Catholic. Should we get a priest? And I was like, what do you mean we're not Catholic? She's like, well, he has a rosary around his neck. I'm like, please leave it there. His youngest daughter wants it there because of the blue. But it was just, it was little things like that. They're like, you know what? That's fine. We'll leave it there. No worries. And I thought, thanks for doing that. And they were so wonderful with, my nieces were very little at the time, and they were just very patient. And they were very patient with all of us. And I was just totally amazed. And, we're not the only ones who have a story. James has a story, too. And he actually has a connection to Northland, too. That's why he's here.
Okay. My name is Jim Shoemaker, and I am from Hudson. And I'm a donor father. I'm father of Anna Rose Shoemaker, who we lost January 13th of 2011 She was in a car accident just outside of Ashland, just south of Mason, for those who know where Mason is. This is my first time up here since then, so it was I don't know if interesting is the right word to use, but it was a trip I've one mind to make, but I'm up here. I am a ambassador for LifeSource. I've been speaking on behalf of organ donation now for 4 years, and I'll speak to anybody. You know, find 3 people staying together, I'll go talk to them about organ donation. But I do a lot of talks to driver's ed classes in the Hudson area, and that's very rewarding to talk to the kids and tell them what's going on, because you know the reason why this is National Donate Life Month, and this is where Blue and Green Day, and yesterday was healthcare decision sharing.
Yes.
That was something like that. The exact words I'm missing, but
National Healthcare
decision.
Decision and Sharing Awareness
Yeah.
Day.
Because the issue is, I missed which number you said. The current number for people on the waiting list is 123,000. Mm-hmm. Christy mentioned the 18 people that are dying, 21 are dying every day, but that list is growing. I think it's about 80 a day. So it's a growing list, and
Well, I've heard that Camp Randall Stadium would overflow.
Oh.
With people on the waiting list. Lambeau Field would overflow.
I always say the number of people on the waiting list would fill up Lambeau and Miller Park, and still have plenty of people still tailgating in the parking lots.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah, and it's the idea is that to get people to sign up. The national average is somewhere around 50%, and that's kind of shocking when you think of eligible people who could be donors. Wisconsin's pretty good. As I said, I'm from Hudson, St. Croix County. We're the highest in the state. We're at 65%. But there's a lot of work to be done in Wisconsin to get people signed up, and it's going to just take education, because people have a lot of misconceptions about the process or what's going to happen, and usually when you get a chance to just talk to them about it and present the facts, they understand. Because you know, people think they're too old or too young. That's not the case. Or they're too sick. That's not the case. The bottom line is we tell everybody to go ahead and sign up, even if they've had cancer. You know, 10, 15 years ago, if you had cancer, forget it. Now we say, sure, go ahead and sign up. It may sound a little crude, but basically it comes down to they'll take what they can use. If they can't use something, they won't take it. But if whatever they can take is going to help somebody who's on that waiting list. And as Christy has had a chance to meet Rob and get to know him here just today for shortly, I've got to know pretty good the gentleman who got Anna's lung. One of her lungs was bruised, so it couldn't be used, but he got her other lung. And, you know, he doesn't quite say it directly, but he would not be here today if he did not have that lung. And he talks about the events in the family's life. Daughter graduating with a doctorate. Oldest son got married, has a child. The youngest son graduated from high school. All these things he wouldn't have been there for. And the other real eye-opener for me was how many people it really does affect. You think about the recipient, and maybe you think about the recipient's parents or spouse or something, but I've had a chance to meet cousins and siblings and nephews and nieces and whatnot, and it's just that pyramid. You got the recipient on top, and then you just start going out to all these people who have benefited. And so our message is sign up. It's easy to do. The odds are greater that you would end up being in need of an organ transplant than actually being a donor. That's that's a little startling. So I read a quote today where somebody didn't want to be a donor. I forget her reasoning, but then all of a sudden her father had to have a heart transplant to save his life, and she's going, my goodness, how was I going to tell some other family that, sorry, you can't have my organs that I'm not going to use anymore, for whatever reason she had. And so she's made the 180-degree turn on that. And that's what we're here for.
And
That's my rambling.
well,
You don't want to give me a mic, I'll never stop.
how have you changed, though? I mean, I found that I've changed as a person.
Oh, well, you lose a child, you change a lot. I mean, that's just, the worst experience. You talked about the LifeSource family group, and it's that group you don't want to get invited to. It's an
Right.
exclusive club, but unfortunately you are forced to join, and you can either go hide in the corner in a fetal position or embrace it and make the most of it. And that's what I've done. I found something I'm passionate about, and that is advocating for organ donation. And it's in honor of my daughter. It's how I remember her. It's, she made that decision on her own. And as we'd like to call it, she made that promise that if she was ever able to be a donor, not that she'd be there anymore, but she wanted to do that. And they talk a lot in that we have hope, or hope. Well, the hope is that those who are waiting, those 123,000 plus people that just hope that they are going to get a chance to get that organ they desperately need so that they live. And again, not only the potential recipient, but everybody they know. And so for myself, again, this is extremely rewarding. I always tell people when I think of Anna, I smile. And she was a very strong advocate for others, and I know this is what she would want, and so that's what I'm doing.
Was that a conversation that you and your daughter had, or was that just...
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. And she was,
was she-
years. She was 20.
Okay.
And she was just one of those young ladies who was older than her years, and because when they asked us at the hospital, and I was at St. Mary's in Duluth as well, she was airlifted from the site here to there, if she was a donor. I remember my response was, I assume she is, but do we have her driver's license? And got her purse, took it out, and there was a little orange dot on it, and that was that. Now, she was 20, which means she was old enough to make that decision, but they extended the courtesy to ask us if we agreed, and we said, of course. And that ties into where, when I talk to kids, it's like, you don't want to put your family members in the position of trying to make that decision on that day.
Right.
My wife and I were, well, and I'll speak for myself. She didn't like me speaking for her in that sense. I was in a pretty good place. I think I would have said okay, but I've talked to some mothers that were asked, and they were deeply offended.
Right.
I had one mother say, when she was asked the question of if she'd let her child be a donor, she wanted to slap the face of the nurse who asked, because she was. And another mother just came out and said, my child's dying. You want to butcher him now. Both of those
Right.
ladies have said just months later they're so glad they made the decision to have their child be a donor. But it goes back to where I tell these kids, just make that decision, and then it's one less thing they got to think about on that day if it would come up, because they got a lot on their mind already.
And they say it's something, too, that this is something that you don't want to keep a secret. Let your family know.
Yeah.
Because when they came to us and they said, do you know Todd's status as an organ donor, we were able to say yes. And we actually said, take everything that you could. And it may sound kind of barbaric, but I mean, I learned that they can actually take the bone, grind it up, make a paste, and use it to help fix bones in another person's body, and within 6 months, my brother's DNA would have been absorbed and the other person's DNA would have taken over. And it's fascinating what can be done.
Yeah.
But it's something that you need to talk to your family about so they're not blindsided, because at that time you have so many emotions going through you, and I can totally understand someone saying, no, you're not going to butcher. And they're not butchering. They're not going to come in with hacksaws and hack away.
It's treated as a surgical procedure.
Yes.
With the utmost degree of respect, and it's always. There's just all kinds of stories about that. There was a picture of someone donating in Japan or China, and all the doctors stood around the table and bent over,
right.
Bowed in respect. A story that's on the LifeSource disc is where they knew, the mother, while she was with her son yet, was singing This Little Line of Mine because she remembered she sang it to him as a child. Well, she learned later that one of the nurses said in the operating room, let's all sing This Little Line of Mine. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about
right.
it, And it's the kind of things they do. It's a very respectful process. But as Christy was saying, it's something you should share. I always tell the kids at the end of my talk, there's 3 things I want them to do. I want them to consider being a donor. We don't tell them to be a donor. Not going to do that, but we say consider being a donor. Secondly, tell your family, tell your loved one, tell someone of your decision. And then the third thing I say is talk to someone else and see if they are a donor or not. It's as simple as that, because more people you can get signed up, more lives will be saved.
And I think we all share a connection. You reached out to me on Facebook, and this is a memo to everyone. Check the other mailbox in your Facebook because
Yes.
I think you actually wrote to me on the anniversary of it, and I didn't check the other mailbox until 3 months later, and I felt horrible about it, and you were very kind about that. And then we met through the LifeSource donor family group, and then when I started planning this event, you were the first one saying, I'm here, and I was just like, you don't even know me.
Well, yeah, but as you said, we become family,
Right.
even if we don't know each other. I always figure, well, we'll meet sometime, but
Right.
we're family now. We'll meet sometime, and actually I got there's somebody else in Wisconsin, and even Ashland, Wisconsin. Most LifeSource area is Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, as they always say.
Right.
And then I always got to say, excuse me, there's 3 counties in Wisconsin. In Wisconsin as well. There's St. Croix and Pierce, which are the 2 right across the cities, and then Superior County. Douglas, excuse me, yes. Or in the case of both of our loved ones, they got airlifted to Duluth. That put them in that in their jurisdiction, their area that they cover. So there's not many of us over in Wisconsin.
And just to add to that, though, just coming here, I'm from Hudson too.
Yeah, we did. We never met. We're from Hudson, and so it's actually
So that kind of stands up for we'll meet sometime.
Yeah, that's right. It is interesting where you start running into people who have a connection to organ donation that you had no idea.
Yep.
And it's just a common ground we all.
And that's
Sure.
why I became an ambassador too, just to spread the word. And all the funds that we raise, I always explain, go to LifeSource and Donate Life Minnesota, because they've become part of our family, and everything that we donate to them goes into their education fund. They create programs, they create videos, so we can go into schools, go on to college campuses, go into driver's ed schools and talk about organ donation, because this is something that really needs to be brought to everyone's attention.
Or those 3 people who are just standing.
Oh yeah.
Just grab them quick and start talking to them. I always wear 2 of the bracelets because if someone asks about it, and if someone wants one, then I've got one to share. This other one I got recently online.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I'm going to get some more of those, have them available for our foundation. We started a foundation, Anna's Promise, that, and again, it's going towards the same thing. The funds we raise will go towards education. I've looked at the map of Wisconsin, and there's a lot of counties close by here that have some pretty low numbers. I think it's just because no one's gone out and talked to them. So that's my goal, is to get out there and talk to those people and get those numbers to be at least the national average, if not higher. So a little more respect.
And this is another symbol of LifeSource is the Tree of Life. And what the Tree of Life is, there's a beginning and an end. And I think our story is, here's the beginning, here's the end, and there's a happy ending.
Yeah, there really is. Yep. Yeah. So this is what I talk about. I always start my speech off, and I'll probably say this tonight, that it'd be very easy for a donor family member to come here and be sorrowful and sad and whatever, but no, we're here to celebrate our loved ones' lives and the recipients' lives, because this is a positive. It's what we're going through is a silver lining to a very dark cloud, and we couldn't be happier for those recipients. I'd love to have my daughter back with me. Of course, I would, but let's be realistic. But she saved 6 lives that day. And the 4.5 years since then, her bone and tissue has gone to 40-some people in 30 states, improving their lives. And got at least another half year to go. They can be used for up to 5 years. So, I think if I would die and I wouldn't be able to donor, it's like, okay, whose life did I really, that's such an impact. 6 lives. There's 6 people out there today that are. I talked to the lady in North Dakota who got her pancreas. She's not having to shoot up with insulin all the time. The gentleman who got the heart, I talked to him, and he's doing great. And of course, the gentleman got the lung. He couldn't take 2-3 steps without breaking out in a sweat, and he was on oxygen. Now he's getting around, talking just fine. So.
And your procedure actually made history in a way, because it was only the second time that a liver had been divided between 2 people.
Yeah, I heard that they say that it grows back to its original size. Like it was like 12 days or something. I mean, it's or 12 weeks. I mean, a relatively short period of time. That partial liver, when it gets transplanted, will regenerate to.
They said a month to 3 months.
Was it that long? Okay, well, even that is.
Yeah.
The fact that even regenerating is what caught me by surprise. And so that's. It's a ever-changing field, and it's exciting to see what will happen in the future. But there's just right here and now today. There's a lot of people on the waiting list, and actually a lot of people. Oh gosh, you should know stats. How many people die in a hospital who could have been donors and weren't. And for no better term, the waste is really sad. Family members just couldn't decide because they were in such a bad place, or just couldn't find out if they were or weren't, and so they couldn't do anything. And so it's.
So that was my argument. I was like, well, no, I mean, I have allergies, I have serious medical problems, they're not going to want me. And my brother was like, your corneas, your skin, you're this, you're that, this. And I was just kind of like, okay, the fact that you actually have these facts and you studied this really means that you really are behind this.
Yeah.
But I wasn't a donor until August after. Actually, no, I signed up to be a donor after 9/11.
Yeah. It is, like I said, it's amazing what they'll like I said, they'll take what they can take. There's even, one of the common objections, or people think is objection, is religion. All major religions are wholeheartedly supporting it. There are some that aren't, and apparently in the Hmong community, they are one group that they believe that they're supposed to leave with everything. And there's a family in LifeSource who lost a son who was like 5 years old, and they really wanted to. And so they met with their holy man, they're leader of their faith, and they were able to take his heart valves, and I think some skin and bone tissue, the bone, skin, and that. So they were able to get something, and so they're working around those.
Right.
They're working with those, and but it's just, like I say, we just got to get the word out.
And I think that's the main thing. A lot of people don't realize that. And I mean, I've put emails into Sean Duffy saying, please mention this, at least in Congress, saying, it's National Organ Donor Awareness Month. Haven't heard back. I did email Don Ness. I told Mayor Don Ness of Duluth. I told him Todd's story. My mother did not know I did this until I told her, I'm getting a proclamation from Mayor Don Ness, and that about floored her. So that will be read tonight. Mayor Deb Lewis of Ashland also gave a proclamation, and Scott Griffiths, Mayor of Washburn, gave the proclamation. So the three areas Todd was affiliated with did proclaim
Good.
that.
That's good. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Anything else anybody wants to add?
We're the Three
We're
Musketeers.
the Three Musketeers. Yes.